is translated into how they're walking out their everyday life. Cool. Last week we talked about when we're weak we're strong, and I believe that there's a few people got quite a bit out of that truth.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not despite our weaknesses God works. It's not we have to become strong. We have to deal with our weakness. All those sorts of things. We often, as people, we think, well, we've got to deal with a weakness before God can use us effectively. Well, the fact is, He doesn't, and it's for very good reason that He works through our weaknesses, and because when He works through our weaknesses, He gets the glory. And we tend to think, well, if we work through our strengths, we feel better about it. We feel like we're in a comfortable zone, don't we? If we're working through our strengths, we're confident. We know the outcome because we've usually got stuff fairly well planned, and so it can tend that we would actually unconsciously or consciously, whatever, we can receive the glory for that because people can see how we're good at what we do. But if we step out into an area that we know we're not strong in, if we might have a weakness or perhaps there's been a mistakes of the past that has come to in some way try to condemn us, to make us feel unqualified. If we step into that area and minister out of that, then it has to be God. And I've seen many times through my life and the things that have gone on around me where that has happened, and in fact the power of God has come through at another level which He wouldn't have otherwise. And so God, it's not He has to work with us as we are. He chooses to work with us as we are. He chooses to work with us through our weaknesses. And so it's a very powerful truth to get a hold of, in that He can use you as you are. And your past, your mistakes, your whatever your weaknesses, they don't actually disqualify you. They probably actually qualify you in a way that you never ever thought. So we're looking at being qualified God's way, not in the ways and the eyes of man. What would qualify us in the eyes of man is a whole different thing. And so this week I want to continue that theme, but we're going to look at it from a bit of a different angle. And we're going to have a look in Ezekiel chapter 43 verse 12, and we're talking about God's hand. So you see, God is speaking to Ezekiel concerning the laws of the temple. And He said, this is the law of the temple. And some versions say the law of the house. And I actually liked that version. That's the old King James version, is the law of the house. This is the law of the house. All the surrounding area on top of the mountains will be the most holy. This is the law of the house. And so what He's saying is, if you want to be blessed, if you want to build something that's eternal and of consequence, then you need to know and you need to abide by the law of the house. The law of the house. And we can often think, well, okay, we see situations where people try and operate outside of the law according to maybe what their own understanding is, and get outside of the law and see how that work cannot be blessed. It cannot be blessed of God. So God is saying, if you really want something to be of eternal consequence, you have to know and you have to abide by the law of the house. Now, verse 13, he goes on and says, so these are the measurements of the altar in long cubits. Long cubits, each of which was a cubit and a hand breadth. So the cubit in ancient times was the only form of measurement. And so they never had tape measures, they never had measuring rods, they never had laser beams, they never had any of those things to measure with. So they used to use the unit of the cubit. Now the cubit is basically the length of the forearm of a man, the average length of the forearm of a man. And it's like this. 6 hand breadths from there up to the tip of your fingers, 6 hand breadths is 1 cubit. And so that's how they used to measure things. And so when you read the Bible and it talks about the ark being X cubits long and or X cubits wide and the building being cubits, that's what a cubit is. It's roughly a half a metre, about 18 inches. And it's 6 hand breadths. And it's also, the cubit is the measure of a man. Cubit, as taught in the old synagogues, and that length of the arm was also called the mother, or the beginning. And the reason for that is everything that we do, everything that we build has to begin with what we do with our arm, with our hand. It's not enough to imagine or dream or envisage what we want to do. The work has to begin with our hand, with our arm. And because that's the very reason why it has to begin with that, it was called the mother, or the beginning. And so that's just a little bit of a history for you. So God would recognise us as having to do the work with our hands. We have to bring what is an imagination or a dream into reality by our work. The cubit. The cubit of a man is 6, and this is the mother or the beginning of what you might need to do. It begins with what we do. Amna is the Hebrew word for that.